Hey, Fort Wayne, it is a beautiful night here in town, not only because the sun was shining, the weather was beautiful, it's Mother's Day, and there's soccer back in the fort as Fort Wayne FC kicked off tonight with a friendly against Sueño FC. We told you a little bit about the match last week. We get to talk a lot about the match this week because it's already been played. Welcome to episode 3 of Fort Wayne Footy. This is a special Mother's Day edition. Not because we're going to talk a lot about mothers tonight, but because it happens to be Mother's Day. So happy Mother's Day to all you soccer moms out there that happen to be watching or listening tonight and later this week. Welcome to the show. My name is Brian Biedenbach. I'll be the host tonight, and I'm joined tonight with some familiar faces you're getting to know a little bit. Micah Middendorf, welcome back. This is your third time. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Yep. You were at the game tonight, so we'll talk a little bit about that. Give us a little taste now, though. Like, we'll get into it later. Give us a little taste of being at the home opener on Mother's Day of Fort Wayne FC.
First off, huge thank you to Fort Wayne FC for running the promotion that moms get in free. So essentially, my wife and came with me. She didn't have a choice because she got in free. So, but yeah, the game was a great kickoff to the season. As always, Fort Wayne FC does a great job with the stadium over at St. Francis, just providing that great experience. So we will talk more about that later.
Yeah. I didn't know you were actually going to the match. I watched it online. I watched it streaming. I think Autumn watched it streaming as well. I didn't know you were there. That's awesome. So I want to get a take later on about just the fan experience and all of that good stuff with Three Rivers Regiment. I saw them in the stands. I heard them drumming and cheering and chanting and saw them waving flags. So we had Christina on from their supporters group earlier this season. And so we'll talk a little bit more about that. Autumn DeMott joining us for the second time. I think you had to miss last week because of a race you had run or something. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah. Tell us about that.
Race. It was a great race. The Indy Mini, for those of you who have run it, you know it. It's amazing. The crowd is fantastic, and just the adrenaline alone is a great experience, let alone running it the 13.1 miles, because you have to be crazy to do that.
Yeah, you do.
But yeah, it was overall, if you haven't run the Indy Mini and you want to run 13.1 miles and be crazy, go do that one. It's a good one.
And I hear if you run really fast, it takes a toll on your body. Is that it?
Yeah, something like that. Run slow. That's my advice.
Run slow. I love it. Well, welcome back. It's good to have you. We missed you last week, Autumn. It is Mother's Day. So, Micah, we know what you did for Mother's Day. You were at the game. Did you guys do anything else for your moms? Like, for me, I'll tell you, this was unexpected. Yesterday, I was in Indianapolis. My family's in Cincinnati. That's where I grew up. I was in Indianapolis yesterday watching my son play volleyball. I had a friend reach out and say, "Hey, I've got a ticket to a game tonight in Cincinnati, and it's free if anybody wants it." So I looked at my wife, and this was, I did this in public, sort of for fun, but sort of for protection, right? I said, "Hey, I have a chance to go to the game tonight in Cincinnati. What do you think?" And we had we drove to Indianapolis together, like in the same car. And she says, "How are you going to get?" She stopped mid-sentence and she goes, "You want me to get a ride home, don't you? You're just going to drive." And so anyway, long story short, I ended up going to Cincinnati. The guy I was riding with lived 5 minutes from my parents. And so I stopped in to surprise Mom for Mother's Day. I was there for like 10 minutes, but it was a happy Mother's Day surprise. So I don't know if you guys did anything cool like that, but did you do anything fun for your moms or your Micah, your wife, besides the game?
I mean, I wish I could say that it was anything special like that, but no, we actually spent pretty much the whole day on the soccer field. So my daughter, she plays U14 over at Sport Club. So she had a 2:00 game. The parents organized mimosas for the moms on the sideline.
At 2 p.m. All right.
So yeah, mid-afternoon mimosas, absolutely. So and pretty much her game ended. She won 3-1. The team won their I think they had clinched their league, so they should move up into the Great League. Great Lakes League next year, which is a huge accomplishment for that group. They have come so far in the last year, but we had that match, and then we went home, let our dog out real quick, and then we went out to the Fort Wayne FC match. So as always, she spent most of her weekends on the soccer field.
Nice. She loves that though, yeah? Or does she just
So I think that was part of the deal when she married me. I don't think she knew what she was getting into, of how intense I am about this game, whereas this is our life. But the cool thing as well is her parents are now starting to get into it. And they made a special point that they wanted to go to the Fort Wayne FC match with us tonight. So we were able to share that with her parents as well. So they were at my daughter's game. They were at the Fort Wayne game. So they had about 6 hours worth of soccer today, which I appreciate. I don't know if they're doing it just to humor me. I enjoy having and sharing what I love with them.
That's awesome. And everybody's sunburnt, likely. Yeah.
A little bit.
Autumn, did you do anything for Mother's Day?
Well, before I get into that, shout out to Brian. Shout out to your wife. I mean, she's the real MVP for putting up with you. I mean, come on, man.
That's the truth. So the rest of that story, I told you I did it in public. Like everyone else around me just kind of smiled and shook their heads like, oh no. And another dad goes, are you really going to go? And I was like, she said, yeah.
Yeah, real MVP if you ask me. But really, like, shout out to all the soccer moms. If you're, like Brian said earlier, if you're watching or listening, shout out to you. Even just listening to Micah's wife, shout out. But no, I spent all of last weekend with my mom. She was in from out of town, actually watching me run the race and supporting me. So we got to celebrate then, and I got to FaceTime her today. So
awesome.
Yeah, good time.
Yeah. Nice. Well, that's good to hear. Well, we want to get into a little bit of the game that we watched tonight. The three of us at least watched tonight. Some of you who are watching live, let us know if you're watching live. We'd love to know if you were at the game tonight, if you watched it on the stream, what you're looking forward to this season, maybe a player that stood out to you if you were watching. We'd love to hear from you. Just drop your notes there in the comments in the chat, and we'll get them up here on the screen as we talk tonight. If you got questions about the game, things that you saw that you'd like to hear us kind of break down and talk a little bit about, we'd love to do that too. So drop those there in the comments. We do want to recognize, before we get into that, we want to recognize our sponsors. And yes, that was plural, sponsors this week, because we do have an episode sponsor, Summit City Climbing Company. Reached out to sponsor this one episode. So thank you, Summit City Climbing Company. I believe it's Fort Wayne's first and only climbing gym, bouldering gym here in town, and it's just on the east side of town, downtown, near Indiana Tech campus. It's a great place. I've been there to actually was maybe one of the first ones. I know the owner, Edwin Chow, and I think may have been the first one that saw it when he was considering buying the building, and to see the transformation of what it was before to what it is now. So if you're into climbing, if you're curious about climbing, check out Summit City Climbing Company. Thank you for your sponsorship, and hope to connect with you maybe later in the season, maybe even do a show from there. Who knows? We'll see how this develops. Thank you, Edwin and Summit City Climbing Company. And also we want to thank FW22, who's our season-long sponsor here. If you're unfamiliar with FW22, they are a 501c3 nonprofit organized to facilitate community involvement in the support and assistance of veterans suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder and traumatic brain injury, while simultaneously educating on suicide prevention and mental illness. So thank you, Fort Wayne 22, FW22, for what you do just in general, and thank you for your sponsorship of Fort Wayne Footy. I know Jared is a big soccer guy, has played in town, and is really behind the soccer community, and wanted to support what we're doing here at Fort Wayne Footy. So thank you for that. Let's jump into the match that we saw tonight, Fort Wayne FC versus Sueño FC from, we learned last week, Joliet, Illinois, next to Romeoville, Illinois. How about that? Romeoville and Joliet. That was a little tidbit Micah brought to the show last week, Autumn. So we're expecting big things from you this week, Autumn. You know, those little tidbits and facts.
Oh, yeah.
Since you're back, we're looking forward to that tonight. So before we get into that match, like I just want to say, like, I didn't realize like the level of USL2. I knew the season was really compact, right? It's like an 8-week, 9-week season. It's really short, 13-week maybe. It's really short, compact season. But I didn't realize they just showed up this last week to start training together. And so the team has not been together even a full week before their first preseason match tonight that we saw. So we were literally watching partnerships develop on the field tonight. We were watching chemistry develop on the field because some of those guys, by my understanding, I think Coach Avery in an interview I saw earlier this week, some of those guys weren't even in training yet when he was doing that interview. So I think the last crop just showed up yesterday, and they haven't even seen and played with the rest of the team. So what you saw tonight was something special. You two have coached at various levels, pretty high college level coaches. How does that play into team chemistry when it's such a, your preseason is that short, that compact? You've had probably several weeks to work with players, but how long does it take for typically like these kind of partnerships to develop with new players that are coming in, maybe that you've just recruited and haven't played with the rest of the team yet?
I think good players are good players regardless of whether you played with them for a day or a week, and especially high-level players like the players that are playing at USL. For me, it's great as a coach because I can lay out just basic tactical foundations. Okay, we'll do 4-3-3. This is where our press. These are our triggers. Once we get a ball, we want to play this. We want to find our targets. Our targets are this guy and this guy. But also from a playing standpoint, like there's no expectation, so you go out and just play. And I think we saw a lot of that at the match tonight, where everyone just seemed to be enjoying their play and they were working hard for each other. So I think we'll see more tactical nuances as the game goes on or as the season goes on. But it was fun to see because it was just they were just roll the ball out and essentially let's play. Yeah, exactly. So they looked very free tonight, which was nice to watch.
Autumn, anything to add to that?
I can't follow that. I think Micah did a very good job at that. So
I think so here's what I compare it to, right? I've been watching again. I won't talk about this every week, but we're new in the season. I do a podcast for FC Cincinnati, and we're still talking. They're not quite to mid-season, and we're still talking about partnerships that are yet to develop between players on the field that we expected to kick in a little bit earlier in the season. USL2 doesn't have that luxury of waiting 2 months for partnerships to develop. It's just about going out and playing. So, Mike, I like what you said. I think that's an interesting take that like you just go out and you play. Good players are good players. And I think to an extent, yes. But some of these players like a Reed Sproat and others that have been there and played there for a number of years. And then you have, 18-year-old players that are just coming in that fresh out of high school coming in with guys that are seasoned veterans, at least at this level. And I know one or two of them have even played at the next USL 1, the professional level that Fort Wayne FC is going to move to next year. So I think it's interesting that I do think partnerships will develop as it goes, but you're right. Tonight, it looked like they were pretty free flowing. They were having fun. And yet there were times where I thought it looks like these players have played together before. The way they ran off of each other. And now I think there were 2 from Florida Atlantic. Is that what I heard? So maybe there was some level of understanding between those 2. Could you see that live as that played out? Any partnerships there, Micah, that maybe we might have missed because the camera was somewhere else on the field?
Yeah, I like the partnership of the 2 center backs. I know Reed Sproat. I know we've mentioned him, and I forget the number. I just watched it live. I'd have to watch the tape to get the exact numbers, but I thought the 2 center backs worked really nicely together. And then in the middle, as the game went on, their number 6, Tavio de Almeida. I hope I pronounced that correctly, but he started controlling the game a little bit more, controlling the pace of it. and knew when to push the pace, knew when to slow it down. So I didn't notice him at first, but as the game went on, he became more integral to what they were doing. But I mean, from a roster development side, like, what I would be interested in is to see how far that Coach Avery goes into bringing these players and bringing the right kind of players that have the right mindset. Because I think that goes a lot with what we saw tonight, which it seemed like everyone, the communication was exactly what it needed to be. No one was confused. Everything was very specific. So I think that's probably part of the recruitment process that they've went through, is getting the right personalities and the right players on the field. So again, starting out the season, I know it's exhibition, I believe, tonight, or friendly, but 2-0 is still 2-0. Wins are wins.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So now you're jumping ahead, giving away the score. But I imagine anybody watching and listening knows the outcome of the game. Fort Wayne FC does come away with a 2-0 victory in their first home, though it was a friendly, their first home match of the season. It was something to watch. Let's get into that a little bit more from a analytic perspective. We watched the first half, and here's a couple things that I noticed. And Autumn, I want to toss it to you here in just a minute. A couple things I noticed in the game. It started really frantic. Like Sueño was pressing high, pressing hard. Possession was just bouncing around. There was no real control of the game. Both teams were going at each other hard. And you see that, I think, in a lot of matches where teams want to come out fast and come out strong and get on the front foot, get that first goal early, or at least kind of make it imprint and go, this is who we are and this is how we're going to play, get used to it, kind of thing. So the ball's bouncing around. It's really frantic. It began to slow down with Fort Wayne FC's, their center back started slowing things down, working the ball across the back line, looking for, longer passes, faster passes to get guys in space without a guy on their back. Right. So they dominated possession, at least I thought, in the first half. Fort Wayne did. Sueño was pressing. They had a chance or two early. I was listening to the commentators. Mike, I know you didn't hear them. They were talking about Sueño getting the better opportunities on the ball, better opportunities in the attacking third, and yet they really didn't come to much of anything. I think that Briscoe had to make one awkward save in the first half. Like, he had already gone down to make the save and the ball was slow getting to him, and that was about all he had to do. Once the game slowed down, though, Fort Wayne took control, had possession, and they pushed forward and they were attacking. Autumn, what did you see in the game, the transition point? Was there a minute of the game? Was it halfway through the first half that you thought, Fort Wayne FC is really taking control, or was it a slow progression to get from the defensive side to the attacking side on the front foot the whole end of the first half, it seemed like?
Yeah, I think 6 minutes left in the first half is when I really saw the urgency, I should say, even though they still had the urgency in the first half. But I think you really saw it come together that 6 minutes, and then into the second half, they came off of how they ended. But I think I would probably say, if I remember correctly, after watching it, I would say probably halfway through the first half is when you really start to saw it pick up. And like you said, they were working the ball width to width, which that's what you want to see. You don't want to utilize one side. And I think they did a great job of moving that ball back and forth and finding those opportunities for sure. The only other thing that I want to mention in the first half is, I think it was a minute or two left before or in extra time when we had that kind of almost one-on-one situation with the keeper. And boy, did I jump up and scream thinking we had it in the bag. But of course, that keeper made a phenomenal save to keep him in the game. And I think that keeper kept them in the game longer than we were hoping for anyway, as fans of FC. But I think those opportunities kind of became more in the second half after those few last minute ones.
Yeah. Micah, what I saw, I think every opportunity that Sueño had or Fort Wayne FC had in the first half came off of moments of transition. they were long diagonal balls or long through balls in moments of transition. Was that true to form what you saw live, or was there more of a buildup that maybe I'm giving them credit for in the first half?
No, I think that's 100% accurate. And you see those moments of transition like more. And I know we just talked about like the team is just transitioning, but it's those moments of transition that'll turn the game. And I know Coach Avery in some of the interviews, he's talked about that transitional play. So I think both attacking and defensively, we'll clean that up defensively. I know we were looking to press and repress. As soon as the ball is lost, we had 2 or 3 players hunting in a pack, trying to win the ball back. So I'm pretty confident we'll close those defensive transition moments. But also our striker, Mamadou Diarra, number 9, was really good in his hold-up play. But beyond that, he was willing to get behind defenses as well to open up and stretch the field. So it was nice to watch him in his tactical nuances to know when to hold the ball and then know, oh, I see this transition. I'm going to try to get in behind. I think we missed a couple of those moments where we could have played him a little earlier, but that'll come. That'll come.
Yeah. Right. But that's what we mentioned. They just got in training camp this last week. And so recognizing those moments and recognizing them sooner. What I did like was because of, a lot of those moments were in transition and a lot of them were diagonal balls over the top because they kept the width. Like they weren't on, the wingers were not on the touch lines, but they were still pretty wide. They kept the width of the field. So that long diagonal ball, if you have a guy that has a foot and can be accurate enough to get there. Now we saw some of those sail out of bounds, mostly from, at least from my perspective, it looked like from the right side to the left. They were sailing over the attacker more than not, but going from the left side to the right, and I forget who was playing those diagonal balls, that's where most of the attack came from. We saw a ball just crash the crossbar. Like I think the goal might still be shaking. He hit that ball hard. We saw two. I think one was a free kick. Another shot went directly to Sueño's keeper. And then Autumn, you mentioned the one-on-one that he just made a fantastic split save and knocked the ball wide and made a great play on that. You love to see that as a keeper. You hate to see it when it's the other team, right? Like I don't know about you, Autumn. Like I love to see good goalkeeper play, no matter who it is. And I'll often walk up to the opposing team, like my kids' game. Like if the keeper made some great saves or whatever, I'd often like walk up to them, and say great game. But as a dad, not a coach, right? That keeper tonight made a fantastic save, kept them in the game. Fort Wayne FC, because of those moments of transition, I think really could have put that game out of hand in the first half. Sure. And we'll talk a little bit more later as the season goes, maybe even later tonight about those moments. Second half, Autumn, you mentioned it seemed like they came out of the locker room playing as they ended the first half, a little bit more possessive of the ball, a little bit slower, working the ball across the back from sideline to sideline. It opened up the game, I felt like, where they didn't have to play in transition as much. Now, it took them a while to get that finishing ball across the goal line. But what did you see in the second half? How did their style of play change?
I think it was more possession based, and they had a lot of good quick touches back and forth, especially leading up to their first goal. A lot of quick decision making, but also kept that possession going. And I think I didn't see a ton of that in the start of the game, like I did in the second half. And so I think that's really what pushed them over the edge with the momentum of how they ended the first half.
Yeah. Micah?
Yeah, I think they started using their wide players more especially in the final area. They started cutting into the middle of the field a little more, especially on the dribble. I know, Autumn, you alluded to it where like the final 6 minutes of the first half where they started playing a little bit better. They made a sub. I know there was an injury sub. The number 10, Abukar Traore, came in. And I think he was the one that created that. Opportunity.
Instant difference maker. Difference maker.
Right. And with his pace and his ability to take people on, I think change the game, and I think that opened things up. And I don't know if you want me to talk about the 2 goals, but the 2 goals came from that wide area. He cut in, and he was able to get a finish. I was watching it as soon as he struck it. It's in.
It's in. Yeah.
Goalkeeper
I mean,
had no shot at it.
No, talk about a game changer is Oliver Mahler Jensen. I mean, he came in and put those 2 right in the back of the net. And as a goalkeeper, that's a bummer, right? But I mean, they were beautiful. So you couldn't help but be excited. But I think it was like the 94th minute or something like that where Oliver just came and had a great opportunity. He just nailed it. And I think from there, as a game changer player, because they subbed him in halfway through the second half, he came in with that momentum and carried that through. And like I said, he nailed the second one too. So I don't know if somebody else wants to talk about the second one. I don't want to take all of it.
But that's the quality of the roster, right?
Right.
I know in some of the interviews that Coach Avery has had that we're assembling this team for that next level, right? From 1 to 23 on the roster, I think there's a lot of quality out there. And it showed that as the game went on, the play started getting better and better and better. So definitely exciting.
And so you mentioned the 2 goals. Sueño had just subbed their goalkeeper too. So the first guy making great saves, the second guy also I think looked good as a goalkeeper, but you bring in a player with the quality of Jensen and his finishing touch there, it's hard to stop, especially a guy with fresh legs that's playing now, stepping into a team that has developed a little bit. They've played about 70, 75 minutes together. You're seeing that's the thing that maybe we can talk about this a little bit is that's the thing as a coach, I get really frustrated with when my players on the bench are just kind of jacking around, screwing around, laughing and joking and whatever, and not watching the game, right? Those are the moments you can learn so much sitting on the bench, knowing that you could go in or will go in later in the game, but you've watched how players are developing, right? You've watched the partnerships that are growing. You've watched, how defenders are playing. If you're going in like Jensen did as a winger, and then he moved in, I think to striker there a few minutes later, you see how the defense is playing. You see their strongest foot. You see their tendencies where to go, and you know how to attack that space. And I think I don't know. I know at this level they're not screwing around on the bench; they're watching. But I just wonder what's going through a player's head, like Jensen, as he watches, to know exactly when he comes in where to exploit, like the spaces to exploit to get 2 goals so quickly back to back to end the match. I think is pretty fantastic. So if you're listening, if you're a player, if you're a young player, if you're a parent, if you're a coach, like make sure your players on the sideline are watching the game. Ask them questions. Like when I would pull a guy up to sub in, I'm like, all right, you're going on the right side. Tell me about the left back. Which is his strongest foot? I don't know. You should know that by now. Like you need to be watching the game, right? Anyway, I don't need to go on that rant anymore. We can talk more of the season as that goes. But Jensen, I think, watched the game. He knew the partnerships that were developing. He and I think it was Owen on the. It wasn't the second goal, but he had a strike just before the second goal that set up the corner kick that the keeper did make a fantastic save on. But that give and go, one touch, beautiful in there. So any other players? We've talked about Abubakar. We've talked about Jensen. Any other players that stood out to you as you were watching the match tonight? Like those 2 definitely were difference makers immediately when they came on the pitch. Others that you saw that really stepped up the game or played well before they were subbed out?
I like Kyle Oliveira. He played more as like the attacking midfielder, and I had my daughter sitting next to me. Every pass that he tried to play forward was trying to split 2 defenders. So that final ball, he was trying to split 2 defenders. So rather than trying to play around the defense, he was trying to attack directly through. And with Mamadou's pace, his willingness to get in behind, I think they're going to link up really, really well in the next couple matches.
Yeah. Autumn, anyone?
I mean, when you're talking the back line, I mean, we've talked about him several times, is Reed Sprout. I think he's a good one. He's solid. He makes plays happen. He pushes the ball forward. I think he's a good, strong defensive line back there. But I also, as a goalkeeper, you gotta recognize the goalkeepers.
No doubt.
I think Briscoe and Anderson. Briscoe, I don't think was super challenged this game. I think it was fairly easy for him as a goalkeeper based on what I've seen previously. So I'm really excited to see how the season progresses in the games that he's going to be challenged, to see his true talent come out. But I also respect that, the Coach Avery subbed out halfway through the second half, I think, roughly, and put in Anderson, who's 18, 19 years old, getting ready, as you mentioned, going into that college level. And for him to be able to go in and remain calm. I mean, he had that one great save towards the end where he came out and grabbed that high ball.
Yeah.
And I was super impressed because, sometimes, especially at that age, if it's your first game at this high level, you have that hesitation. Some players have that. But I didn't see that out of him. So I'm really excited, and I'm looking forward to the rest of the season of how these two gentlemen do, and maybe even possibly, I know there's a third one, how these keepers do and how they play out. But I got to always give them a shout out.
No doubt. And I think the little nuanced things that you see as a goalkeeper, as someone who's played that position that maybe others don't, like why instead of throwing or punting the ball, does he put it down and play it off the ground, right? Like he had the confidence to do that, to play an accurate ball. He's a lefty, play an accurate ball off the ground, and he consistently did that. Like, I love seeing that, a player with that confidence that knows, like, this is what I can do. And he's putting the ball consistently 60, 65 yards downfield to put it onto a striker's foot as best he can, right? Like, so those are, it was fun to watch those two play in the moments that they had. Not really moments to shine, but they weren't really tested. But it's good to see, they came through when they needed to. So good shouts there. Next week, we have we'll talk a little bit more, I think, about the Dayton Dutch Lions later in the show. That's where Fort Wayne FC is traveling to next week to play. So we'll talk about their opponent coming up. There was one thing that related to this game that just made me think, I thought I'd throw out for a discussion point here. It's just a quick observation that, like, I watch soccer at a lot of levels of play. Like, I played at different levels, not quite this level. I know you guys have played at higher levels. You've coached at higher levels. It seems that, I watched an MLS game last night, and it seemed the field is identical in size to what we saw tonight. It doesn't have the football lines, which, side note, I can't wait for that stadium to be built and we'll not play on a football field. Thankful that we have a field to play on. And I think it's a great partnership with University of St. Francis. So nothing there, no knock there. I love watching soccer without the football lines. So next year in that new stadium, shout out to that stadium and those that are building it. Get out there and support that. But watching an MLS game last night where the field's the exact same size, it looked like the game moved a little bit slower. The balls were played longer. But when they needed to move fast, they moved fast, right? You watch La Liga, you watch English Premier League, and the field, again, is the same size, but it seems so spread out. It looks so much bigger. And I think it's the teams just use the space differently. You watch a game like tonight, it seemed, especially in the first 10 to 12 minutes of the match, it was so frantic. The ball's pinging around. We talked about that a little bit. It seems so compact, so tight. But again, same size field. So my observation is, like, it seems that the game slows down, and maybe it's just because the width and the spread of the players on the field. Why does it, at the higher levels you go, why does it seem like the game slows down and is more spread out like that?
I'll jump in. I think it comes down to several factors, obviously. But I think including the quality of players, and what I mean by that is better ball control. They have the vision of what it's supposed to look like. And then the passing accuracy, that has to be on point. Like we saw tonight when they had good segments of using that whole width, and they had that control. I mean, that was beautiful soccer. So hopefully as the season goes on, they continue to find that rhythm and use that space instead of the frantic playing that we did see. But I think that makes a difference, right? And then I think the tactical approach is better when it comes to when it comes to the possession. So kind of tacking on to using the width, using your space, using that field to the full advantage that you have. And then I think also you could probably add in there the level of fitness of each player, right? It's a different level of fitness for each level. And I think that's going to take a key part into the different things that we see at every age group. Like I coached U10 boys last year. That fitness level is going to be very different compared to this level that we just watched today, right? I mean, and that goes with age, and that comes with age as their bodies are maturing and developing into these players. But I also think it can also go back to the tactical skills as well.
Yeah. Mike, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, for me, it just comes down to the technical side of it, where the higher level you get, the more technically sound these players are. Where if you put anyone under high pressure, they're going to be able to get out of it. When we're talking the highest levels at, EPL or La Liga or MLS. So you can't necessarily press them high all game, because you're just going to be too exposed. And when you get down into the lower levels, it's easier for coaches to identify the less technically skilled players that say, hey, that right back, we can press them and we'll be able to create opportunities, or they'll give the ball away, or they'll just kick it 30 yards down the field, and then we can receive it and win that ball. So especially at the end, some coaches will say, hey, first 10 minutes of the game, we're going to come out, we're going to push them hard. It's risk versus reward. We want to get that early goal. We want to play on the front foot, set that tone a little bit for the game. And then maybe next 10 minutes, we're going to fall back. We're going to play safe. And then maybe we'll tweak our formations a little bit depending on how the other teams are playing. So there's kind of that coaching side and that tactical side that you talked about, Autumn, that I think plays into what we're seeing as well. Where, I mean, Brian, you said it. It was chaos the first 10 minutes.
Yeah,
tackles were flying in, the ball was flying in. But I think that's how they wanted to play. I know me as a player, I always wanted to get that first tackle in. I wanted that first hard tackle just to either let the other team know I was there, or say, okay, mentally I'm in this now. Let's play.
Yeah, and I think all that, like, wrapping that all up and bringing it specifically to this game, right? You see the quality of the roster. You see the quality of the players at Fort Wayne FC. Sueño knew what they were doing and trying to get on their front foot and press them hard. But once Fort Wayne was able to take control of the ball, they did spread the field out. They had the quality to get the crosses in, like the switches in, not the crosses necessarily, but switching the field from sideline to sideline. They had the quality to do it, and they had the game intelligence to know, right, where to be and when that ball was coming. And so I'm looking forward to seeing this team continue to progress this year again, because 3 days, 2 days, 1 day in camp together in preseason, to see how they started this match versus how they ended this match was pretty phenomenal to see. Just again, players recognizing where, even, gosh, the way the two up top, different players at different times, were running off of each other was brilliant. So anyway, I'm looking forward to seeing the quality of this squad that had that understanding by the end of the game to spread the field, slow the game. We've got the players that can do this. Was pretty fun to watch. So if we start that way next week, I might have to change my prediction of the 7-2-3 season. Like, they looked pretty good as it came out. Hey, we do have a comment in the chat from Christina, who was on the show week number 1 from Three Rivers Regiment. She says, so happy to see Briscoe back and to get the opportunity to see David play as well. Briscoe has such commanding presence and always calm under pressure. I saw that tonight. He was challenged by a couple balls in the air. Was able to come out, take control of that, and just kind of step over the player and just continue on his way. So pretty fantastic. I told Christina, we saw her on the broadcast. She says, hopefully they got my good side. Shout out to all the fans who came out on a holiday Sunday night game. Yeah, it was, the way the camera setup is, you don't get to see much of the stands, much of the fans, but they did get, I think, some shots from the field panning up. Did look like there was quite a crowd there. Micah, I wanted to just ask you, we talked about the game, but from a fan perspective, you were there at the home opener tonight. You were there with family. What's the fan experience like from the sidelines, from the stands there, watching a Fort Wayne FC match, regardless of the product on the field?
So I'm trying to look at it through the eyes of my in-laws who are, they only got into soccer since they met me. I've been around them 20 years at this point, but, and they've only really been fans since my kids became players, right? So they know the game through them. So it was fun to see as they parked and we walk in and there's the drummers, and there's, the music is playing, the stadium is loud. And the stands were pretty full tonight. So it was a really good showing for the first game of the season on Mother's Day. And they were kind of looking around like, wow, this is really neat. Then you had the Three Rivers Regiment in the stands, the smoke bombs, the drums, the loudness. So overall, from an experience standpoint, like it's pretty neat to watch, and I think they will come to more games with us. So, the experience, and shout out to Christina and what you guys are doing over there is you're getting the casual fans to be interested in Fort Wayne football.
Yeah, that's awesome. I was looking up today, just because I'm really interested in the season tickets, right, for this last season in USL2, but mainly because you get priority for season tickets in that new stadium. And I will say this, there's different levels of season tickets you can purchase for Fort Wayne FC matches, but you kind of got to go for the ones with the seat backs, right? Like, you can get upper level, you can get supporter level. They're all bleachers, but then you can get those nice, they're not cushy seats, but they at least have a back on the bleachers, right? Those are the ones you want. Micah, I don't know where you sat tonight. What was your vantage point?
I tried to get right at the 50-yard line, midfield. Sorry, football field. So right at midfield.
It was a 50-yard line. Like it was.
Sorry. But we actually brought the stadium portable seats. I don't know what they call it. I found them at Costco for like $30. So we created our own seat backs.
Okay, right? So you can take those in. I didn't know what you can take in. Okay.
Yep.
All right, so you can do that too. Awesome, fantastic. Christina says real fans don't need seats with the back.
Yeah,
right, Christina, because real fans stand and cheer and wave flags and chant. And I saw you, and that's what you were doing. That's my preference. When I watch my kids, I can't sit down, and so that's I love it. I love that. So fantastic. Sounds like a fun fan experience. I can't wait to get out to my first game this season. Later, they're away this next week, but they're coming back home, I believe, in another week. So hopefully we'll get out there to see that game. I do want to transition us a little bit and talk about 1927. We talked about them the last couple weeks. We had Dave Bennett, their GM, on the show last week. They opened their season as well this week. They were away, though. They're up in Holland, Michigan, against the Holland Rovers. Unfortunately, lost their opening league match 0-1. There is a link to watch these games. If you're interested, we can post that in our show notes. If you want to rewatch that game or watch games coming up, we can kind of point you in the right direction on where those games are streamed. But they will be back in town next week playing against Grand Rapids SC. We'll tell you more about that game in a minute. I don't know if you guys saw this game. I watched the highlights of this game. I kind of scrubbed through. I wasn't able to watch it live. It was in Holland. I wasn't able to take the time to watch the whole match on YouTube. But a couple things I saw, right? They don't play on a football field. They played on a soccer field, but they played on a grass, rough looking soccer field to where as the ball's being passed across the back line, it was rolling when it started. and it started bouncing by the time it got to the player that they were playing against. And that's just the nature of grass fields sometimes. And so nothing against Holland's field there. It happens at Sport Club too. Like, that's just the nature of it. It's just a different surface you got to get used to. 1927, to me, from what I saw, they had some great opportunities, lots of a number of breakaways. One that just was just out of reach of the striker. He had to slide into the keeper. The keeper picked it up early in the game. In the 11th minute, there was a mishandled ball by the goalkeeper, who came out to punch it, but he punched it right down to our number 10. Don't know his name at the moment, who put it just wide. So Fort Wayne 1927 SC had opportunities. They're a fun team to watch. Like what I saw, Dave told us they have a pretty they're attacking minded, a nice attacking style of soccer. And I saw that. And unfortunately, they didn't put a ball in the back of the net in this last week. Here's the thing though, Autumn, you talk about good goalkeeper play. Holland had a penalty in the first half, and I knew that the outcome of this game, because I watched social media last night. They posted 0-0 at halftime. They lost 1-0. So I knew going in, this penalty in the first half, the guy probably missed it. The keeper made a great play and saved a penalty to keep them in the game. How does that feel as a goalkeeper to you're not winning the game necessarily on a penalty save, but you're not letting that first goal go in either?
Man, as a goalkeeper, that is like pure gold. I feel like you are winning the Olympic gold medal when you do that. I mean, as a goalkeeper, you put a lot of pressure on yourself, and you have a 50-50 shot of saving it, right? But boy, when you make those saves, there's nothing like it. Like I said, I feel like you're winning the gold medal in the Olympics. So good on that keeper for making that save and keeping him in the game. That's awesome.
Yep. So that was in the 33rd minute, I believe. They saved a penalty. Went into halftime 0-0. Late in the game, 61st minute, there was a controversial call. Last defender takes down a player. Is it dog-so? Is he taking away a obvious goal scoring opportunity? He gets a yellow. It's not a red, but it is a penalty. He goes to the line, and this time he buries it. And that's the ball game. 1927 loses to Holland 1-0, but they looked good. They're attacking minded, and that's what we love here in the United States, right? We love goals, we love attacking, we love pushing the field, and unfortunately they didn't finish, but I think they will. Those goals will come as they continue to play and develop that style. It was a great, fun game to watch, the moments that I saw of it. So here's why I tell you that. They are in town next week. While Fort Wayne FC is away playing the Dayton Dutch Lions, 1927 SC is in town. If you're interested in catching a game next Saturday, they do play against, who do they have coming in town? Grand Rapids SC next Saturday. So check that out. We'll share game time and stuff later this week. You can follow them on social media as well to get the latest info there. Fort Wayne FC travels to Dayton to play the Dayton Dutch Lions. Now there's a couple of Dutch Lions teams. It's an international, I'm learning this, right? It's an international club tied to what is that? The Dutch Lions Capital Group, right? And so there's teams all over called the Dutch Lions. This one happens to be in Dayton. Something I learned this week as a fan of FC Cincinnati, I didn't even know this, that the Cincinnati branch of the Dutch Lions became, like, they morphed into what's now FC Cincinnati in the MLS. They've continued to grow, went into USL. They were FC Cincinnati in USL. Then the kept the name, but different organization as they moved into Major League Soccer. So they're serious about their soccer. They play a style. Do you guys remember? Did you watch Ted Lasso? Did you watch Ted Lasso?
Yeah.
Okay. Total Football. Do you remember Ted Lasso? Yep. Introduced the world to Total Football, because it wasn't a thing before that. Actually, it was. But the Dutch Lions play Total Football. Explain that to us. Do you know Total Football? Tell us what that is, guys. Coaches?
I think Jamie Tart lined up correctly. You don't play to me, you play through me. But yeah, it's a way of just saying.
Not to put you on the spot. It's just it's a free flowing style of soccer, right?
Yes, very well put, Brian. Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah. Much more free flowing style of soccer. So it'll be interesting to watch. As they come to town later in the season with Fort Wayne developing their style of play, and to see maybe something quite a bit different out of the Dayton Dutch Lions when they come to town. We'll have a guest later in the year when they do come to town. That's one of the things I'm excited about on this show is some of the guests we have lined up. The one that I have lined up, I believe, is the play-by-play announcer for the Dutch Lions. So I'll have to, it's not confirmed, so I maybe shouldn't have said that, but that's our hope, is to get him on here. I do have connections there. So looking forward to that and some of our other guests coming on the program. Next week, we'll have a guest who can talk to us a little bit about Lexington SC, who is their next opponent. So excited about that. We'll get to know the teams that are coming to town. We'll get to know some other guests and some other podcasters that follow these teams and broadcast announcers. So it should be a fun season here on Fort Wayne Footy as we go. Guys, I'm interested, we've talked about 1927. We've talked about Fort Wayne FC. I always want to give us a chance to, what other soccer are you watching? What other soccer are you involved in this particular week? If you're watching live, if you're in the chat, we'd love to know, what games are you watching? What games are you going to? What games are you coaching? Just so, we know what's happening around Fort Wayne. If I got a free afternoon, I want to catch a game, where could I go? Who's playing? Where are you playing? That sort of thing. Let us know in the chat. Autumn, what do you have coming up this week? I know you're coaching right now. You're in the middle of your middle school coaching season.
Yeah, if you're listening live or listening later, as in maybe tomorrow morning, you should come check us out at Carroll if you want to watch a bunch of squirrely girls play some soccer. No, I'm just kidding. They're actually pretty great. But we do wrap up.
We're not at Carroll. I'm just kidding.
Yeah,
still
right.
squirrely.
Right. Yeah, no, they are. Yeah. No, but we are going to be wrapping up our season with Canterbury and Carroll kickoff at 5 p.m. tomorrow night. So I'm really excited. These girls, as I'll get on my little coaching soapbox real fast, but these girls have been incredible to coach. They want to learn, they want to grow. They do sit on the bench and they watch the game. And so it's been a fun season. And, having a not such a great season last year and great outcomes, we are having a winning season. So, which that excites them. As a coach, winning's not everything, right? But it does help. It does get them excited. So, that's us. We'll be wrapping up tomorrow night, and then we'll have to figure out what's next soccer-wise.
Man, I can't believe it's the end of the season already.
It went by so fast.
Yeah, when we talked about doing this podcast, you were just starting your season, and it's like we blinked. We're only 3 weeks in. I know we talked before that, but wow, that's a fast season.
For sure.
Well, good luck tomorrow night as Canterbury faces off against Carroll. At Carroll, is that what you said? Correct, at Carroll. So good luck tomorrow night. Micah, what are you watching this week? What do you have going on?
This week is State Cup. So both my kids will be in Indy Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Hopefully we'll get some good results. Me personally, we got about 3 weeks left of the high school academic calendar. And once that is open, then we will have our summer training starting. So ran to a couple of my girls today, and I know they're excited about it. So I can't wait to get back on the field with them.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, we've got State Cup, if you listen, Micah and I, our sons play together. So I was excited to see that they moved the 2:00 Friday afternoon State Cup game to 7:15. So our kids don't have to miss school again on a Friday for another soccer game. So I'm excited. I was excited to see that. We play at, I think, 7:15 on Friday night, 10 a.m. Saturday, State Cup matches at Grand Park for the 09 boys. We're excited to see what they can do this year.
My daughter plays at 10 o'clock as well, so now I have to choose which game do I go to. So.
Both at Grand Park? Are they
Yes, so maybe I'll do half and half.
Are they close together?
I don't know.
Micah, just take a golf cart from somebody and just go back and forth.
I'm sure they have them.
Yeah. That's hard, man. My older son will be playing in sectionals volleyball here in Fort Wayne, and so I have to make the decision. He's a senior. Do I stay home and watch his last sectionals games, Or do I anticipate that they'll win sectionals so I can watch them in regionals the next weekend? So it's going to be tough. Or do I go to Indianapolis and watch some state cup games? I don't know. I'll tell you next week what I decided to do here on Fort Wayne Footy. But I have that. We're hosting Cincinnati Soccer Talk on Monday nights. If you're interested in MLS talk, tune into Cincinnati Soccer Talk on Monday nights. But yeah, it's a fun week of soccer coming up. If you're watching live, I'd love to know what you're into, what you're watching, where you're going. Do you go to away matches? Like, I'm curious this year if people go to away matches, if Fort Wayne FC and Three Rivers Regiment fans, like if you travel, like, are you going to Dayton to watch that match this next week? I'd love to know that. Maybe we'll get a group together sometime and do that. So, Autumn, before we get to our final thoughts here, our extra time, I would need to give you an opportunity because last week on the show, the rest of us gave our preseason predictions, and we not only gave a number, we went team by team and said, here's who I think we're going to win, and here's why, because of these players and this coach and this style that they play. I want to give you an opportunity to break down every game this season and give us your preseason prediction on them.
Yeah. Hey, Brian, do you realize that I've known you for several years and I know when you're blowing smoke? That's not happening, but I will give you my predictions.
Love it. I love it.
I'm going to go, you know what? After today's match, I'm going to go all out and I'm going to say it's going to be a 10-1-1. And I think we've made it, kind of several points throughout this episode of they've only had 2 or 3 days of preseason. And then today was their match. So they're still getting used to each other. They're still getting used to how they play and interact with each other on the field. And, the last few minutes of this game that I saw today makes me really excited. And I think that there's something special with just this group this year. So I'm just going to go all out. I'm going to say a 10-1-1.
All right. You do have the advantage. Like, you are cheating a little bit because you got to see them play. The rest of us were just guessing. I don't know. So when they end up at 7-2-3, like, I won't be happy, but I will be happy because that was my guess last week. So I still think they're going to take the division and roll on a winning streak into USL League One next year. Not next week. They got a while before that. Hey, I want to jump into this extra time segment. Last week, we had some random topics of conversation that I think were a lot of fun. I think we have a lot of time to get into these tonight, but I did want to just share, like, I was at a game last night where a former player for one team was in town with the opposing team playing against his former team, right? And it just struck me it was Brandon Vasquez, who played for Cincinnati, now plays for Austin FC. He left Cincinnati to play for Monterrey in Liga MX. He's now with Austin, and the Austin FC was in town, like, to face off against Cincy. But it struck me, like, the question that hit me was, like, how do home fans treat former players when they come to town, right? So a lot of times, I know it has to do with the way the player left. Were they demanding to go out? Did they reluctantly leave? We just didn't have the money to keep a player of that caliber or whatever. I know it changes. I know that's the thing. It happens a lot in USL too. Rosters change quickly. USL League One, even rosters turn over because players are moving up divisions and trying to, make a name for themselves. But last night, I'll just say this. We don't need to get into a conversation. There were 2 bits of conversation that were going on. There was a player also for Cincinnati that's coming to town playing with FC Dallas later this month, that the conversation was, do we boo him or do we not? Like, he left on, like, his terms, and it was not pretty, right? But the player Vasquez, that was in town last night, left pretty amicably. Like, the team wanted to support him, wanted to get him to the highest level he could go to. And so when he came to town, he stuck around. I didn't stay after the game to watch this. I just saw pictures that he climbed over the wall and he was signing autographs of home team fans that were still wearing his old jersey. That's right. Cool. And he was there. He scored the 1 goal that Austin scored. He didn't celebrate. He just kind of waved to the crowd and just said, kind of, hey, he didn't celebrate. He didn't go crazy. He was very respectful. The fans were respectful of him. But this other player that's coming in later this season, the debate is, do we boo him or do we not? My question is, if a player leaves on their terms and it's not pretty, like they just demand, like, I want out, I'm not going to play here. When they come to town, how do you treat that player, knowing that this player could be really dangerous if you tick them off? What do you do as a fan?
I would take it to the next level and just boo him. Just boo him all day long. That's just me though. So.
Autumn?
I think this is just how I've always been, but I probably would just treat them with respect. Yeah, you went out. It was bad. It was bad terms for you, but that doesn't mean we treat you any differently at a home turf.
Okay.
So I think that's where I would go.
Okay.
Good for
All
you,
right. So here's a little bit more backstory, right? Another player that is not nearly of that caliber comes in playing against the team that he went to after demanding a trade. He's a mediocre mid-level player. He comes into his former team's stadium. Everybody boos him, and he wins. Like, he gets the winning goal every single time he plays in that stadium. Now, this other player is 3 times the player he is. And you've seen what he can do when he's got a chip on his shoulder. I'm not booing this guy. That's all I'm saying. I'm not booing him. I'm going to let him play his game. I'm going to let him dig his own grave on that field. And I'm not booing him. We don't need to talk too much more about that. That's all I had for extra time for my segment. Like, how do you treat the, former players that you loved who are now in town opposing? Micah, what do you have as your extra time thought here?
Just a shout out to all the moms out there. And I'm going to speak on a personal note. Without the support of my wife, I would not be able to do what I do and do what I love doing, which is coaching and, being involved in the game as much as I can. So huge shout out to all the moms, because moms absolutely make everything happen, at least in my household. So.
Yeah. Awesome. Good shout there, Micah. Autumn.
Yeah, I mean, on the boys today, I think if they can capitalize on these goal scoring opportunities that they had multiple chances of today in this match, the rest of the season, I think it's going to be a beautiful season to watch.
Yeah. Looking forward to that. I think you're right. I do think, again, goalkeepers make great saves, and they did today. Or that game would have gotten way out of hand. Looking forward to seeing the attacking style develop for Fort Wayne FC and 1927 SC this season. Autumn, good luck tomorrow night against Carroll as you face off in your season finale out there. Micah, I'll probably see you on the sideline on Friday in the State Cup games. Saturday, who knows where you're going to be, if you're going to be with your son or your daughter. You choose. Who do you love more? On that note, we're gonna end our show with that. We really shouldn't, but we're going to. Thanks for joining us here on Fort Wayne Footy. We will see you next week.